Welcome to How to 2X Engagement with Intent Data. Today we've got some amazing speakers joining us to talk about how to make intent data work for you. So we'll go to the first slide. Awesome. So first we have Alex McWethy. She's the Senior Manager of Demand Generation at WatchGuard. Alex has been doing some really great things with customer voice, and we're so happy to have her here today.
Thanks, Adele. Happy to be here. Hi, everyone.
All right. So next we have Latney Conant, the Chief Market Officer at 6 Sense. And in addition to being a CMO, she's also the best-selling author of the book No Forms, No Spam, and No Cold Calls, which we'll be sending you a little preview of after the event.
Right on.
And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Griffin, the VP of Customer Success at TrustRadius. Jen has been leading the industry for over 15 years and will be your absolutely fantastic host for today. So I'm going to hand it over to her.
Awesome. Thank you, Adele. So it's super exciting to be here. And I am particularly excited about sharing this virtual podium with these amazing women. Before we get started, it seems like everywhere you turn, people are talking about intent data, right? It's the big craze, but there's a ton of mystery about not only what it is, but more importantly, how you use it. Even those who have it have heaps of data and they struggle with how to make the best use of it. So our goal today is to really demystify this a bit and make sure you leave with some clear steps on how you can use this within your own organizations. And we are going to dive right in, but definitely stick with us until the end. We do have a few special treats that we're going to talk about giving away to all those that attended, so you don't want to miss out on that piece. So Latney, I think we'll start with you. And I know 6 Sense has coined this term, the dark funnel. So I'd love for you to walk us through kind of what this means as a concept.
Really quick before I do that, can I get like a virtual raise the roof for 3 women speakers?
Yes, it's awesome, right? Especially for something like data.
This never happens. This is so cool. Awesome job. I'm excited to be presenting with both of you. So had to just give a little raise the roof for that. But yes, so let's meet the dark funnel right now. So only 13% of sales and marketing teams have confidence in their data. And I know we like to think that we have a funnel because it helps us sleep at night. But the reality is the way that buyers buy is they are anonymous. So anywhere from, depending on the analyst you ask, 90 to 70% of buyer research is done anonymously. It's done across teams of people. So it's not just a lead or a contact. It's whole teams of people doing this research. And you don't have a funnel, you have what we call a dark funnel. And this is a huge challenge for us as sales and marketing teams, right? Because within the dark funnel, there is gold. There is valuable information that will help us point our resources to people who are ready to buy. And step one, I think nowadays to have sustainable sales and marketing programs is being able to uncover the dark funnel. And a big part of what intent data does is do that for sales and marketing teams. The challenge is a lot of people are talking about intent data. If you want to go to the next slide, beep, I'll just do a little beep. A lot of people are talking about intent data, and I think it's easy to get a little bit confused. And so I'm a simplifier, so I like to simplify things. And I put intent data in 3 buckets. The first bucket is what I call first-party intent data, okay? This is who's on your website, because there are people right now on your website doing research and you don't even know about it. They're not filling out a form, but they're conducting risk research and you want to know about that. They're also potentially, engaging with your sellers and doing different activities, but they're doing it on your own first-party properties, but you don't have that signal. That's first-party intent data. And that is actually some of the strongest signs of intent. And I think there's a little bit of a typo, but one of the things that Sixth Sense does is provide you first-party intent data. So better than anybody else in the industry, we can actually match and marry intent signal back to accounts. And first-party is one of the areas that we do that. Again, this is critical. One of the strongest forms of intent is just who the heck is, engaging right with you in your house. And I like to talk about not understanding first-party data as the equivalent to having teenagers and letting them throw parties in your basement all the time and not knowing what's going on. It's just kind of irresponsible. So that's first-party. Second-party. Second-party is there are, Jennifer, if you want to jump in, but there are great resources like TrustRadius where people are doing research, they're researching you and they're researching your competitors. Again, you need to know that. So maybe talk a little bit about second party intent, Jennifer.
Yeah, so second party is where sites like TrustRadius really fit in. So buyers, yes, they go to your site, but they also come to sites like ours to research different products, right? And they do this kind of in multiple steps through the buying journey, right? They might do it initially, they might do it later in the cycle, but normally they will hit some of these review sites at some point. And just like a first party site, right, or first party phase of the intent piece, we get information from our visitors. So we can see what reviews they're reading, how long they're reading, are they comparing you to 2 brands or 3 brands, et cetera. And in this data, then we can bucket up and send it over, and you can use it just like you do your first party data. And that takes us to the third party data, which back over to you, Latney.
So first party on your own property, second party, it's kind of your own property because it is a site about you and you want to know about that and have access to that. And then third party is, there's a, broader B2B periodicals, places that people are doing research, and maybe they haven't come to your website yet. And this is really critical because a lot like second party and first party, this obviously shows intent, but it also helps you understand critical keywords. So what I love about third party intent is not just that it's showing me accounts that are, potentially in market for what we do, but it also gives me insights into my broader market. So one of the things that when you introduced me, they said I'm a chief market officer. That means understanding my ICP, my ideal customer profile, and the things that they care about. So what are those accounts researching? What top keywords are bubbling up? That's going to help advise things like my advertising strategy, my creative, my content, my persona maps. So third-party data, it's going to show you accounts in market, but it's also going to give you really rich data about kind of what your market is doing. So that's how I think about personally the 3 kinds of intent data.
Okay, perfect. So hopefully that kind of sets the stage, and then we're going to launch into everyone's favorite thing, which is a poll time. And Adele, you want to pull our poll up?
So if you go to the next slide, and then we'll go ahead and launch the poll. Awesome. Okay, hopefully you guys can all see this. I'm going to give you a few minutes. Please answer. This just helps us make sure that we're tailoring the rest of the presentation and stuff to you guys. All righty. So
yeah, and no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I can't wait to see.
This is looking pretty good. So we've got another 30 seconds or so, guys. So please make sure you get your votes in there.
The only thing is, what if they're using all 3?
Ooh.
Yeah, we should have had that as a choice.
Should have put that as a choice, guys. Feel free to use the messaging tool if you use all 3.
Let us know.
Yeah, you get a gold star.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and then share the results. All righty, can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, we've got some pretty interesting results, guys.
Very cool. So yeah, that's interesting. So definitely a lot of folks in the third party bucket, and just as many folks that say none. So there's definitely a lot of good data out there that you are potentially missing out there.
Latney,
Alex, any surprises in here for you guys?
yeah, I'm surprised there's not more first party. But and I think there's a big opportunity for obviously the people that said none. So
Yep. And I like the not sure people. It's like, maybe we're using it. That's cool.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna hide the results and send it back to you guys.
All right. Cool. So we are going to kind of dig a little bit deeper. And so Latney's going to kind of take us through kind of 6 Senses approach to intent data.
yeah, so again, I talked about this dark funnel. So what do we want to do, guys? We want to be able to light our dark funnel up. And so what we provide at 6 Sense is, this capability to be able to look at first and third party intent data and really be able to expose kind of exactly like who's in market right now. And why is that valuable? That's valuable because if you're someone like Alex, and you're going to hear her story in a minute, you want to be able to proactively target demand. So I have a saying, I believe at 6 Sense that inbound is too late. And if you just put an inbound net out there, what are you going to get? You're going to get a lot of tires and cans, and maybe you get some fish, but you're really just putting this net out there. And so really what we want to try to move to is being able to, again, light the dark funnel and then proactively target the very best demand for us right now. And so if you go to the next slide, that's really what it's about. And so having intent data combined actually with predictive analytics not only gives you the ability to light the dark funnel, but also show who's in my ICP, who are the best personas for me to reach out to, what research are they doing, so I can really personalize my outreach and exactly where they are in their buying journey. And that's kind of the holy grail of what our customers are doing.
Awesome. Cool. So we didn't think it was possible to do a webinar on intent data without having multiple funnels. So this is
I have a lot of funnels.
Yeah, so many funnels, all the time the funnel. So here is another kind of view of a funnel, kind of on TrustRadius's take on this. So one of the interesting things about second-party data that we've seen is that while it's likely to be lower in volume, the quality is quite high, right? And where TrustRadius really shines is our focus is at that bottom of the funnel. So fun fact, very few people actually choose to spend their time researching software on a site like ours just for fun, right? So the fact that they are even on our site at all means there's a pretty strong indicator that they're in market for a particular software. So we work with customers to drive really high quality reviews in a way that lets them tell their narrative, right? And it's important, right? Because we want to make sure that their brand is looking good on all of these second party sites. And so yes, along the way, we have CTA links that we can link back. We have ways that we can help our customers pull quotes in onto their site, which really gives that third party validation. But the real secret sauce and kind of what we're diving into today is that intent data. And so we can leverage this to help brands in their retargeting program. But the data can also flow directly to sales reps, right? And so essentially, we can let a rep know, hey, there is someone in the market, they're looking at brand A, they're looking at brand B, they're making a lot of comparisons, they're not even considering your product, right? Powerful information, right? So if we can give this information to a rep, they now know it's a great time to reach out, wedge themselves in that buying cycle, and now they can actually have talking points. They already know who else you're looking at, so here's my battle cards, right, on how I can kind of go and tackle that. So that's kind of where the kind of secret sauce is there on using the intent data there. So how do you put all this into practice, right? So you can certainly use 6 Sense and TrustRadius as standalone products, but they're also quite a powerful combination, right, when you put them together. And every single marketer I know, and I'm sure Latney knows the same thing, they have a limited budget, right? There's only so many dollars to go around. And when you are using no intent data, some of your dollars will find the mark, right? But you've got a lot of dollars that are just kind of wasted out there. But if you add in some really quality intent data, you can use the same amount of dollars and stretch it, and it goes a lot farther. And no one knows this better firsthand than Alex. So I'm gonna turn it over to her and let us walk us through the magic of what she's done over at WatchGuard.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for the overview of intent data and kind of walking through that for everyone. I think it's so helpful, and it really is, aside from being a hot trend and a topic, I think it's super important for the world we live in today, how we market, how we message. It's just a really important thing for marketers and sales teams to know about and be informed on. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about a program that I ran. I'm lucky enough to get to work with both TrustRadius and 6 Sense pretty much every day. I'm in both tools. And so we've been a TrustRadius customer, we being WatchGuard, since I think about 2018. And we started with a review program. We started with a lot of what Jennifer was saying, developing that content, building it on our website, trying to figure out how to get the reviews and the content from our customers and partners who love us further out there. You know, we're not a big brand. We're one of the smaller guys in our space. And so TrustRadius has been a great tool for us to, just like we were saying, make our budget really stretch and get in front of as many people as we can with the least amount of money possible. And so with, you know, we've had this true intent data, but our organization just wasn't really set up to use it back in 2018. You know, we had it, I had visibility to it. It's obviously important data for our sales team, but we just couldn't really figure out how to make it actionable. And that was our sales team wasn't set up the right way to use it. We're really just transitioning into ABM. So it's something that we're definitely getting a lot better at. But in 2018, we had it. It was this gold mine of data that I was trying to figure out how to use and share with my organization. And at the end of last year, we became a 6 Sense customer, and we started rolling out the platform, getting our team set up, and then, you know, COVID happened, and being able to get that intent data, to have those conversations with prospects and accounts, you know, really became a lot more important for our whole organization. So over the last 6 or 9 months, I don't know what month we're in anymore. You know, WatchGuard really started using 6 Sense, really developing it, really talking and figuring out our ideal customer persona, you know, really building the tool. And I came back from my maternity leave and I was like, guys, I have this intent data and now we have 6 Sense. We have to put the two together. So I built a program leveraging the research information that I had from TrustRadius, telling me the accounts that were visiting WatchGuard's page, were reading our reviews, were doing comparisons. I uploaded that into 6 Sense. And, you know, that's great information on its own. That's super important. That tells me a lot of what I need to know about the account, and it tells me a lot about their buyer's journey. But then by putting it into 6 Sense, I get a lot more of that firsthand, first-party and third-party data that we were talking about, and that I have visibility into, has anyone from this account visited our website? Are they actively involved with sales? Are they in our CRM? Are they not in our CRM? Are they part of a marketing campaign? So then I had all of that information on the account, not just what they're researching in terms of the firewall side, what they're, you know, comparing to, but I actually can see the keywords they're searching, what pages on our website they visit. So for me, that's great information that I can share with our sales team, but it also lets me build these really targeted accounts. And I think on the next slide, I'll dig into that a little bit more. But we created this really targeted campaign going after specifically these accounts that were on TrustRadius, and then digging into what they were doing on 6 Sense. So we took our beautiful red firewalls, they're the only red ones, so they stand out a little bit. And we pulled a quote actually from one of our TrustRadius reviews and then added the top rated badge. And I know Jennifer is going to tell you guys a little bit more about that. But the reason we did this was to help connect the dots, right? So we know that all of these accounts are familiar with TrustRadius in some way. So when they see this, you know, TrustRadius is someone they trust. It's a brand that they know. It's a brand that they visit. And so by putting this on our ad, we felt like we would be better able to market to them and to target them.
Yeah, and I will say, to kind of add to that, right? Like, I love this ad. It's definitely going in our decks as a best practice for a couple of reasons, right? Like, you know, as Alex mentioned, right, these are folks that we know went to TrustRadius, right? So we know that they like review content. So putting a quote right there, smack in front of them, appeals to them, right? You know these people read reviews, so give them a review. And then calling out the TrustRadius, calling out that they're top rated, right, gives a ton of credibility. And then love that heading, right? Because, you know, remember, some of these people might have never heard of WatchGuard. They're looking at different firewall solutions, but by putting such a really clear heading there, guarantee you, if I have been researching a couple of other brands for firewalls and this popped up and for me as an ad, I'm intrigued, right? I'm definitely hitting that button and digging in. So really good there. We have seen some customers that will struggle because they get the data and then they go make an ad, but it's a completely generic ad and mentions no reviews. There's nothing on there. It's just, you just put a random ad as if I knew who you were, right? And so I think it's really important to remember part of the work of this is nailing that ad copy. And this does a really, really good job of that.
Thank you. So then, just looking at some of the results, we were really able to increase our engagement. We were able to influence over $1 million of sales pipeline. We had over 150,000 impressions for this list, and it wasn't a super huge list, right? So I think it ended up being maybe 300 accounts. So that's a ton of impressions at those accounts. And I don't know if we have this on another slide, but I only spent $200. So for $200, I was able to have a really great target campaign, influence over $1 million of pipeline, and we had a 12% click-through rate at the account level. So that tells me that the messaging was on point, the content was right. We were hitting them with the right message at the right time, which normally you're kind of guessing if you're doing that, but because of all the intent data I had, I knew that that was the right message. I knew that that's what they'd want to hear and what they'd want to see. So, I'm happy with the 12% click-through rate, but I wasn't super surprised. So, for me, I'm a one-person demand generation team for our corporate office, and it's great that I was able to export a list from TrustRadius with the true intent data, import it into 6sense, and get my campaign running within 48 hours. I was spending $200 to influence over $1 million in our company's pipeline, and I got over 150,000 impressions for that money as well, which anyone else in demand gen knows that's crazy, because normally you'd spend 10 times that to get that kind of impression. So we're still looking through the results of the campaign. We just did this at the end of August, but I just wanted to share a couple of stories of some of the accounts that I've seen and some of the sales engagement that we've had so far. So we have one existing customer.
Real quick, Alex, before you get into some of your examples, since we didn't call it out here on the slide, I think it's worth like a little mini round of applause for $200 spend on a campaign, which I think, when Latany and I heard that, we're like, $200 US? You mean like a trip to Target, right? So this is, very, very small money for really, really impressive results. So hopefully that sticks with people. That this is not something that you need tens of thousands of dollars to be successful. So super cool. And if we could do that all day long, it would be amazing.
The other thing I love is just the agility of it, right? So, I assume that the 48 hours is really just the creative on the ads. But you can see intent and really at a click be able to target those accounts, which now more than ever, we have to be able to act on and capture demand that's looking for us right away. So I love that I feel like this is the new way of marketing. It's very agile and really, really in the moment that matters, getting after those right accounts. So again, I love that part of the story too.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think it's for us, we were working on, it was a creative. I should have mentioned that. It didn't take me 2 hours to upload the list in case my boss is listening. It was the creative and getting everything set up on our end. But yeah, it's super quick, and for someone who doesn't have a lot of resources, I think it was great for our organization. One of the early, I think, wins for us is we have an existing customer that was in the category level list. So they were researching at the firewall level. I had that data. I saw the activity from the campaign. I saw that they clicked on the ad. I saw increased engagement on our website. So I just went and dug into it a little bit more. And I was actually able to see that it was a customer with a renewal coming up that was researching WatchGuard, but also looking at other vendors. So I reached out to their account manager and I said, hey, here's, take a look, make sure you're digging into this. You should follow up with them. Because that's, you guys know it costs we don't want to lose customers. It costs way less to keep a customer than to get a new one. So, we're working with them, we're getting their renewal set up, and that doesn't necessarily even have a huge influence on that new pipeline, but keeping that existing customer is really important for WatchGuard and for our business. So that was one example. I have another example.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, for that one, it is, I love that you guys were able to kind of dig into that data for existing customers. It's a use case, right? We see lots of folks using that isn't as obvious, right? Everybody gets excited about bringing in those new logos. But in my particular role, I live and die by retention numbers, right? So it's super important to any business, right, to retain and grow, et cetera. And so getting that early signal of, this customer that you thought was super solid, they might be looking, right? Now's the time to get in there and give them some love, maybe lock in that deal, right? And so I think, sometimes you feel like you have to use every trick in the book to secure a renewal, right? And this is one more thing that can certainly help. So I'm sure your account team was like, thanks for the tip, right? And so, we need to find ways to get this data not into just sales hands, but also into those CSM and account manager hands as well.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the other examples I have is WatchGuard is a portfolio company. So this campaign is specifically about our firewall products, but we do have other platforms and products as well. And so one of the accounts that was researching the firewall, we have them as an existing firewall customer. They're, no issues, but based on the intent data that I'm able to see from 6sense, I could see some of our other category keywords coming up. So they were researching multi-factor authentication, they were researching some of our competitors in that space. And so that's a great opportunity for me to say to the account manager, to the sales team, hey, everything's peachy keen on the firewall side, but it looks like they're researching another platform. This could be an opportunity for a cross-sell. You might want to make sure that they're aware of our product line in this area. So again, it was maybe not necessarily a completely net new person we'd never heard of, but for WatchGuard, that's a new win, right? That's a cross-sell opportunity. That's a new account added for that product portfolio. And so that's, a big deal for our sales organization.
Yeah, that's awesome. And especially, cross-sell as well. Yes, it brings in some money, which is cool, but also makes them even stickier, right? And now they're really kind of, married into that WatchGuard suite. So yeah, and that's the nice thing about intent data, right? It's such powerful data that you can influence renewals, cross-sells, upsells, net new, right? It's kind of across the board. It's really just a matter of segmenting it the right way and using it the right way.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really happy with the results of the campaign. This is the first one we've run, and I'm excited to run it again. And I know our sales team's really happy so far with the results, and I'm excited to keep working on it. And I will keep 6sense and TrustRadius in the loop so you guys can hear more wins and more success stories.
Awesome. And then I had a quick question for you. You mentioned earlier that you could kind of see in the data, some of them were net new logos, some of them were already in your CRM, right? Do you have off the top of your head know kind of what was that breakdown, right? Like what percentage did you already know about, and what percentage were kind of net new for you guys?
Yeah. So it's definitely, I would say a higher percentage that were in our CRM, but we also have prospect accounts. So the way our Salesforce is set up, prospects often have accounts created. So for us, the numbers don't look exactly the same as maybe other organizations. I would say from like paying customers to prospects to net new, we were probably maybe 30 or 40% existing customers and partners, people that had active licenses with us, and then the larger percentage were either old licenses or older prospects that had never purchased, or just new people, new accounts that we didn't have in our system before.
Okay, cool. That's super awesome. All right, so I wanted to kind of dig into some key takeaways. And you want to talk to this a little bit, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, we pulled this together so quickly. It was so easy to set up. I did it by myself, which I think is the other big win for probably most marketers in the world. Aside from getting the creative, which took the longest time, it's really easy to export the list, to get the data, and then just the amount of information that you get when you put that information into 6sense. You can see so many other things. You can see the number of accounts that are in consideration phase, what buying phase they're in, what type of profile fit they are for your organization. So it's so easy to set up. It was easy for me to do by myself, and I'm not the most tech savvy person, so that's saying something. And then again, we talked about this a little bit, but just the cost to the reward is, the potential impact is huge for us. You know, a couple $100 to influence over $1 million of pipeline. I don't know a lot of other campaigns that I've run, you know, not that people are doing physical in-person events, but that was kind of the way we did stuff in the past, and those shows are super, super expensive. So this is a great way for WatchGuard to really get the most bang out of our buck and to influence as many accounts as we can with as minimal costs as possible.
Yeah, and I love this quote here, right? Because it just seems like such a no-brainer, right? It's like, if you could spend a couple $100 and get this kind of return, right? Why not? And I think you slipped it in earlier, but in case people missed it, right? You did this basically coming back from maternity leave, which, if anybody has lived through having a small child at home, right, and the pregnancy brain and the new mom brain, right? And so I think it's a huge testament to kind of your perseverance and digging in and getting it done. And, you know, there's definitely, you know, some setup to kind of get things going with like a TrustRadius and build your profile, and there's some plumbing to do with your 6th Sense. But once you've got everything going, like, I think you guys are set up to just keep kind of iterating and going as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said this to my account manager for TrustRadius, but I think this is like one of the first things I did when I came back from my maternity leave, was get through my like 5,000 emails, and then I was like, I've had this data, I want to use it, we're putting it in 6th Sense. So yeah. For my welcome back, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I know. It's like, hey, I'm back. Did you miss me? Here's $1 million of pipeline.
Look at this, guys.
Glad to have you back.
I know. Yeah. It's always like, get her back.
This is kind of a mic drop one, but I'm sure you have some other tricks up your sleeve. What are you thinking you want to try next?
So we started running a little bit with the category data from TrustRadius. So my main campaign was on the product side, which is people very clearly going after comparing WatchGuard with other vendors. And we have the category data running. We just did like our first cycle of it through 6th Sense, so I'm excited to dig into that data. But I think that's going to be even more powerful for us, because those are people not even considering WatchGuard, right? So if we can get in front of a couple of those accounts and say, hey, you know, maybe there's a better option. Maybe you haven't considered us. Like I said earlier, we're smaller brand name. We're not, you know, the Cisco's of the world. So I think if we can get in front of a couple of those accounts and convince them to give us a shot and to take a look at WatchGuard, I think that'll be a really big win for us. So I'm excited to dig into that, and it's a bigger list and more opportunity.
Yeah, and just so that everybody kind of knows, because we didn't really dig into the details on it, but we have 2 different types of intent data, and one is the product specific, which is the one that Alex has been using the most, which is very much for her. It is, these are brands that we know are looking at WatchGuard and maybe comparing you to other places, but you're for sure being looked at on the TrustRadius site. The second type we have is this category level, and that's the top one she's wanting to kind of start playing with. This is where we say, we're going to give you everybody who's coming to the TrustRadius site and looking at anybody in the firewall category in this case. So it might be they're looking at 3 other brands, but not you. So we're going to kind of surface that. So we do kind of 2 different types, and you know, and you can work with either one of them. So yeah, so she started with one and moving on to the other, and we'll be excited to see those results as well.
And we also want to do a 6th Sense retargeting campaign too. So that'll be the next step, is to take the product level and run a retargeting campaign to them, surfacing some more content. We just came out with a new ebook that I think will be really a valuable resource to this market. So that'll be our next step for our current list, is to retarget them with a little bit of a different message, a little bit more content, but along the same lines.
Also good use of that first party intent.
Yeah.
I know, it's hard. You can mix them all together.
I'm using it all, guys. I'm using it all.
I love it.
That's awesome. Well, thanks to kind of wraps our formal presentation. We're going to dig into questions though. So Adele, I don't know if you've gotten any coming through, if you want to bring those up.
So we've got a couple of questions that have come through, but guys, whoever's on the call, if you have any questions for anyone, so Latney, Jennifer, or Alex, any questions about 6 Cents or TrustRadius, or even how Alex set things up. So the first question that we have, well, actually, this isn't a question. One thing I wanted to note was many folks messaged us and let us know that they're actually using all 3 types of intent data since it wasn't a multi-select. So there was about 4 or 5 people who came through and said, oh, we use all of it. So gold star for everyone using all of the intent data. We think that that's really great. So one question that we have right now is, and they're not sure if they missed us all right, but has there been any outbound success with this so far?
Sorry.
Like using it for, say, like, so I guess how are you enabling your sales or your BDR teams with the intent data?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I mean, I'm not in sales, I'm in marketing, but I think knowing who our competitors, who these accounts are researching, if they're comparing us to someone, I think Jennifer mentioned it earlier, you know, get your battle card out. If you know that they're comparing us to Cisco, you know, it helps them to know how to have the best, most effective conversation possible. And I think it also really helps them know where to start, right? By looking at the intent data and seeing how the timeline and what they've done, what the account's done through this campaign, through other campaigns, through website visits. You know, do you have to start at the beginning? You don't have to explain who WatchGuard is. They're familiar with us. They've been to, you know, these pages of our website. They've compared us to these different vendors. You know, it really helps our sales org have those conversations. And so the way that we do that is to just, it's available to them in Salesforce, so they see all the activity at the account view like they normally would. And then we've just provided some kind of, I don't know the right word for them, cheat sheets or conversation guides where based on what accounts are doing, what they're looking at, we help our sales team know how to start the conversation. We also base it off of something that is on our 6 Cents portal that 6 Cents helps us do because they do it too. But based on who the title is that they're talking to at the account, you know, and what they're searching, what conversations to have. So it's definitely a little bit more on the front end to prepare to make sure that we've got all that stuff ready for our sales team. But then, I mean, it's really at their fingertips. They see it in Salesforce, they have all the information, and it's just on them to strike the conversation, get in front of the contact, and kick it off.
And then I can say from experience, we have a pretty heavy outbound model and then outbound use case across our customer base. And, you know, because we bring together multiple sources of intent, first, third, and, you know, you can also bring in second party intent as well. And then it passes right to your outbound team to actually help them prioritize their day. And so what we typically see is a 75% better conversion rate. So think about, a qualified account that gets passed from 6 Cents versus just a lead is going to convert 75% better. We also see a 40% higher win rate on those, and we see 50% higher contract values. So it really has a multiplicative effect downstream and really throughout the whole funnel.
Yeah, and I'll add on here that I think that we sometimes see some of our savvy sales folks using the content so that, you know, that we've got the data, right? So you can kind of go and use that to identify accounts. But then again, if you're using it to see that they've been researching you on a site like TrustRadius, you know, reviews speak to them, right? And so we'll work with sales team to get them to start using these quotes, right? If you can reach out and tailor your message, it's not generic, right? And say, hey, here's a quote, and we can help you with the tagging to find the perfect quote, right? So if you're going up against competitor A, we can have tags so that you can get into our system and see, here's a perfect quote that specifically calls out why my brand is better than brand A, and you know, you're off to the races. So there's certainly some ways there that we can kind of help the sales team with just pushing, right? And any little arrow in your quiver is good when you're trying to kind of book that deal.
Awesome. And then we had a little bit of a follow-up question on, man, we're getting a lot of great questions. I'm so glad we have so much time. So one little quick follow-up on that one. Someone was asking, is this like a true false in Salesforce that you select, or I'm not particularly technical, so I'm like, I have no idea, but.
So what 6sense does is there's actually an iframe in Salesforce. So they think it's Salesforce because that's where the AEs are, right? And we don't need to tell them. But what it is an iframe, and it says this account is in market in a purchase buying stage. It then tells them who the buying center is, so who are the key people engaged in the account. It tells them the top keywords so that, again, they don't have to guess. That's what I loved about when Jennifer talked about the ad. Not guessing what they're researching or what they care about, it's right there. So that really helps in shaping their outreach. They know the persona, they know the keyword, and they know it's in a purchase buying stage, which means they're about to open an opportunity. And that's right there on the opportunity record.
Awesome.
I think my favorite thing, but my favorite thing in the iframe is the timeline view. So the timeline view from 6sense actually shows you, like, at the account level, what they've been researching, the pages they've been visiting. And so for the existing customer that I was referencing earlier, I saw that they were researching the appliance that they should be renewing. And then I saw that they were researching our newer appliance. And then I saw that they had keywords for some of our competitors, right? And so I think that timeline view can be really helpful for the outbound team to know where they are, what they've already done, and have those, you know, again, like the most productive conversations that they can. Sorry, I'm really obsessed with the timeline view right now, so I just have to say it.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got a bunch more things that have come in. This one I think is particularly interesting. And if everyone in the audience, if we don't get your question verbally, we will follow up after the event with like a more detailed response. So this one that came through was, what is your intent data process? And I know you talked about this a little bit, but I think people are wanting to get a little bit more nitty gritty in terms of, you know, is it a mass import, matching intent data with open opportunities and leads? Like, what's that step-by-step process?
I don't know, Lani, if you want to cover just, I mean, I can cover how we do it, but you probably can do it better than I can if you want to cover like the process of it, and then I can kind of talk more about this specific campaign.
Sure. So the core of 6sense is almost like an embedded CDP. And so what we're able to do is bring in first party intent, third party intent. If you have a relationship with like a TrustRadius, you know, we'd want to bring that in as well. And then we essentially give you a unified view of an account. And then what you can do is you can build any segment, any audience that you want. So what Alex is able to do is then go and build her audiences. So she can say, show me accounts that are researching this category and have a highly engaged head of sales. Boom. Or, you know, show me accounts that have come to my website and are also researching this particular product line. So any combination of really permutations around that account data, you can create audiences and then go and run campaigns. But all of that kind of normalization and enrichment and tying it to an account happens. That's sort of the core of 6sense, is that data layer.
And then I'll say from the TrustRadius data side, right, we have a couple different ways. One is just a very simple download, right? You can just download it into a CSV, and that's kind of what Alex has done, and she has imported it into 6sense, right? Super, super easy. We also have a new Salesforce connector where we can pump this directly into your Salesforce instance. And with this, you'll actually see it coming through in its own, you know, little window, and it will attempt to match. So we'll be able to pull in, hey, this company is here. We already see them in your CRM, and you can, you know, do something with that data versus this is net new. And from there, do you want to make a new opportunity? Do you want to ignore it, right? Is this something that you're like, this is not in our, you know, this is not an ICP for us, let's just ignore it, and then we won't show you that anymore. So there's a few ways you can play with it to kind of put all that information into Salesforce directly, or always as just a downloading type thing that you can input into a tool like 6sense as well.
Awesome.
So we're staging for the integration with Salesforce and TrustRadius. So we are working on that right now. I would just say, I guess the other thing that we've done is so with the category level list, I kind of did a lot of that filtering, right? So I did do just the import, but like Ladney's saying, I can really kind of narrow it down. It's a huge list and not all of them are going to be a good fit for WatchGuard. So we can do based on the profile fit, we can do based on company size, and that helps me make sure that whatever message I do roll out with from a content perspective is going to resonate with that account. So maybe there's just some accounts that aren't a good fit for us and we don't want to include them, or maybe the message I want to roll out is really focused on hospitality, so I don't want to include education. I mean, it just, in 6 Sense, you have the ability to kind of filter down even more based on the account information. You can get as targeted or as broad as you'd like, and that makes it really powerful.
So be able to slice and dice.
Very cool. So this is a question about the ads in particular. So for your ads, what is your CTA once they click through? Do you push them to a free trial, an asset download, a demo, or a landing page with more information? Like, what have you seen work?
That's a really good question. So the first draft of this actually pushed to TrustRadius, to our review page. We, again, knowing that they've been on TrustRadius, we felt like that would be a good place to start. I also asked our product team to create a net new ebook and some new content, so that people that are in this like buying stage of the firewall, we can kind of give them this additional resource that's a guide. And so what's also great about that is because with 6 Sense, we know if they visited the website or not. We don't have to have a form fill. So actually what we'll do in the next iteration of this is provide them with the ebook for free. And then we'll have that information free without having to fill out a form. We'll have that information in 6 Sense at the account level, and then when we retarget them, we'll try to push them further down towards the option of giving us their contact information or contacting sales. So the first round of this was back to TrustRadius for more reviews and more information, but I'm excited to see how other CTAs and other next steps go.
Yeah, and I'll say that we've seen customers do a whole variety, and I would say that in general, test it, right? I think everybody's customers are unique, right? You might find you have customers who love ebooks or hate, form fills or whatever. And so I think, doing these, especially because you can do these campaigns for a couple $100, right? It's like test them and see what really works well, and then you can kind of extrapolate that onto other campaigns in the future.
Very cool. So this next question is for 6 Sense and TrustRadius. A little bit more detail about the types of intent data. So the question is, does 6 Sense and TrustRadius have all 3 types of intent data? What is the difference between your intent data and Bombora?
So I'll take that. So, and then I can throw it to you, Jennifer. So from a 6 Sense perspective, we provide you first party intent. So all the de-anonymization of any of your first party properties, Content Hub, chat, web, and then we provide third party intent, which is at the keyword level. So with 6 Sense's third party intent, which would be similar to a Bombora, but the difference is with 6 Sense you can actually do unlimited keywords, and you track branded and generic keywords. And so there's just a little bit different in the granularity that you can get. We happen to also have a partnership with Bombora. So if you just really love intent and you want their third-party intent as well, we can bring that in. Again, we're trying to aggregate all the data, but natively in 6 Sense, you get first party and third party, and then we kind of have a bring your own to the party where you can also supplement with second party intent from an awesome provider like TrustRadius, and we're a new customer at TrustRadius, super excited. I'm taking notes, Alex, as well as other third party intent providers if you'd like.
Yeah, and I'll say for TrustRadius, where we specialize in that second party data, right? So that's what we have. In addition to that, though, we've got lots of other things that we get our customers to focus on, including, right, building up all these reviews, getting really good quotes. How do you use them in your assets? How do you arm your sales team to have those conversations? How do you help use the content to kind of convert the trial pages, et cetera? So there's kind of, we're not just a second party intent one, but that is the data that we offer is in that second party one. And so customers can use it standalone or partner up with tools like 6 Sense to kind of, bring even more intent data to the party.
Awesome. Sorry, I'm just responding to one question. Okay, so this one is a question about, is it possible to automatically feed keyword data into LinkedIn ads and website personalization rather than doing list uploads? I don't know if you guys.
Yes, so 6 Sense automatically, so the ads that she's running natively through 6 Sense to trigger programmatic display as well as retargeting, and we also have an integration with LinkedIn. So those segments that we talked about, you can push to pretty much any execution channel. They also power chat and they also power website personalization. So if you were in, for example, the WatchGuard segment that she talked about, the bot could potentially greet you with, hey, I see you're doing this, or, whatever, or the quote from TrustRadius, for example. It all cues off of that segment.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll say for TrustRadius, we let you put your pixels up on our site so you can start tracking when people are coming to visit you or your category, and then use that to kind of build an audience. And then the actual, displaying a review and kind of powering it, that's done by our customers. So we just kind of help build a nice audience that's kind of targeted, and then our customers going to take that and then do their own ad campaigns.
All righty, we've got one last question, and it actually is about 6 Sense's third-party keyword data. So can you tell us more about where the third-party keyword data, about it and where it's sourced?
So we have like a B2B publisher network, basically, that we ingest the data from and then marry it to accounts.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for all of the questions. This was fantastic. If we didn't get to your question, there's quite a few in there, so I'll be going through them post-event and making sure that we get answers for you. Also wanted to thank all of you for your time, and it's just always so wonderful to see such a crew of just smart, kick-butt ladies talking about technology. So I really appreciate you all taking the time. I know Jen, you had a few closing comments before we shut down.
Before we wrap up, and yeah, I echo that sentiment, right? It's super fun, and hopefully you guys are all leaving with some nuggets and some things to go dig into and find $200 and see if you can copy Alex's results. But I did promise a treat, so just so you know, we are going to be following up with all the attendees after this, and you will be getting some really cool content from 6 Sense, as well as your very own sample of our true intent data that will be specifically for your brand. So if you're like me, right, just seeing that data and digging through to see if you can find a good nugget or two kind of helps put all of this into light. So be on the lookout for that, and we will get that over to you to go and play with. And with that, we're ready to wrap.